5 seconds to go. The matter before the Honorable Court relates to the interpretation and application of certain provisions under the Right to Information Act 2005, which was enacted by Parliament with the object of promoting transparency and accountability in the working of public authorities. The petitioner, a social activist and resident of the district, filed an application under Section 6 of the Act seeking copies of documents related to the allocation of government land to a private company. The public information officer rejected the application on the ground that the information sought was third party information and disclosure would harm commercial interests. Aggrieved by the rejection, the petitioner preferred a first appeal under Section 19(1), which was also dismissed without assigning proper reasons. The petitioner then approached the State Information Commission under Section 19(3), contending that the denial of information was illegal, arbitrary, and contrary to the spirit of the Act. The learned counsel, appearing for the petitioner, argued that the Right to Information Act is a progressive legislation intended to empower citizens and ensure transparency in public affairs. He submitted that Section 8(1)(d) of the Act, which provides exemption for commercial confidence, trade secrets, or intellectual property, cannot be invoked in a routine manner to withhold information of public importance. He relied upon the judgment of the Honorable Supreme Court in Central Board of Secondary Education versus Aditya Bandopadhyay, where it was held that the right to information is a fundamental right derived from Article 19(1)(a) of the Constitution and that disclosure is the rule, while non-disclosure is an exception. He further submitted that allocation of public land involves public interest and therefore transparency is essential to prevent misuse of power and corruption. On the other hand, the learned counsel for the respondents submitted that the information sought by the petitioner contained sensitive details of a private company's business transactions and that disclosure would adversely affect its competitive position. It was also contended that the information had been provided to the government in a fiduciary capacity and was therefore exempted under Section 8(1)(e) of the Act. The respondents argued that the authorities had acted in good faith and in accordance with law while rejecting the petitioner's application. The Honorable Court, after hearing both sides, observed that the Right to Information Act represents a shift from the culture of secrecy to one of openness. The court noted that Section 8 of the Act provides specific exemptions but mandates that such exemptions must be strictly construed. The court held that public authorities cannot deny information merely by invoking exemption clauses without demonstrating how disclosure would actually harm the protected interest. It further held that when a matter involves allocation of natural resources or public property, the element of public interest outweighs commercial confidentiality. the court emphasized that transparency in such transactions is necessary to maintain public trust and ensure accountability in governance. The Honorable Judge referred to the decision of the Supreme Court in State of Uttar Pradesh versus Raj Narayan, where it was observed that the people of this country have a right to know every public act done by their public functionaries. Applying this principle, the court held that the information sought by the petitioner did not fall within the scope of any legitimate exemption. It observed that the authorities had acted mechanically in denying information without proper reasoning or application of mind. The court also criticized the appellate authority for failing to provide a speaking order, thereby defeating the very object of the act. The court further noted that the Right to Information Act places a statutory duty on every public authority to facilitate access to information and to maintain records in a manner that enables easy disclosure. The Honorable Court directed that every officer handling RTI applications must be adequately trained to understand the scope and purpose of the Act. It was further directed that before rejecting any application, the public information officer must record reasons in writing and consider whether partial disclosure could serve the public interest without harming protected interests. The court observed that denial of information breeds suspicion, while disclosure strengthens democracy. It remarked that transparency is not an obstacle but a tool to enhance efficiency in administration. The judgment also highlighted that several departments continue to treat the RTI Act as a procedural formality rather than a powerful instrument for citizen empowerment. The Honorable Judge stated that the true success of the Act lies not in the number of applications disposed of, but in the quality and sincerity of responses provided by the authorities. In conclusion, the court quashed the orders of the public information officer and the appellate authority and directed the respondents to furnish the required information to the petitioner within a period of 15 days. The court also instructed the State Information Commission to ensure that all departments maintain proper registers of RTI applications and publish quarterly reports on the status of disposals. Before parting, the court emphasized that transparency and accountability are the twin pillars of good governance, and every public authority must uphold these values in letter and spirit. The Honorable Court finally observed that while the Right to Information Act is a milestone in democratic reform, its effective implementation depends on the willingness of officials to embrace openness rather than resist it. The judgment concluded with the observation that secrecy breeds corruption, while transparency builds trust between the government and its citizens. The writ petition was accordingly allowed with directions to the authorities for strict compliance with the provisions of the Act and the constitutional mandate of transparency in public life.